In a previous video, we summarized this astronaut data up here with this summary of US versus USSR astronauts, the numbers of them, the total mission time, and the average mission time. So what we wanted to talk about in this video real quick is why, when we did that, and why I would recommend you always use the versions of these formulas that have an S at the end. Now, I've done these same formulas down here, sort of hid them right there, using the version that does not have the S, and you can see they produce the same results. So why is this distinction important? Well, you may be modeling and at some point need to add an additional criteria that maybe you didn't need to add in the original model, but now you're like, oh, I need to add a new criteria. Now here you're all set up to do that. If you need to add an additional criteria, you just put a comma here. Let's say we only wanted to look at female astronauts. I can go here, click on the top of the gender range, go to the bottom, put in the quotes F, and there you go. I have my criteria. I know there are 52 female US astronauts. If I bring this down, I know there's 4 for Russia. I can do the same thing over here. I go to the end, and you can see right away, it says sum range, right? Criteria range, criteria, and then these are optional, right? Because they're in brackets. And you can see it's criteria range 2, criteria 2. If I put a comma, I'm all set up to do criteria 2. I can add as many criteria as I want, essentially. There actually is a limit, but it's very, very high. So I can add the gender, again over here, put in quotes F, and now I know the total mission hours for female astronauts for the US, and the total mission hours for the female astronauts for USSR or Russia. And then over here, I can do the same thing and go to the end once again, add a criteria at the end, and pretty much all set. Now this is amongst female astronauts. Now if I want to do the same thing down here, I just can't do it really. Over here, I can't add additional criteria. Now here, it's trivial to change this to a countifS. I can just add an S, and then I can go here and add my criteria ranges at the end, which is no big deal. But over here, it is much less trivial. And I mean that in this way. You can see here, the format of this formula, the syntax of this formula rather, requires that the range, the criteria range is first, the criteria is next, and then the sum range. The same is true with the average if. Over here we have our criteria range, our criteria, and then our average range. So if I wanted to switch this over to be averageifS, I would actually need to switch the order of these cells before I begin. I can't just add criteria at the end. I have to move the criteria ranges even to the very end over here, make sure the average range is first, and now this formula will make sense. You can see it's average range, criteria, and then I can add some criteria at the end. So essentially, it requires you to switch the order of the ranges in order to add criteria, additional criteria at the end, which is annoying. So basically, it's much better to just get in the habit of putting these cells in the order that you would, the ranges in the order that you would put them for the version of these formulas that have an S. That's a much better habit to get into while you're learning and building your Excel skills. So you would always put the thing you're summing first, the range you're summing for, or the range that you're averaging first, and then you just stack on as many criteria ranges and associated criteria as you need. So here, like we did before, we have our criteria range 1, criteria range 2, criteria 2. We could add more if we want. If we wanted to look only at civilians or military astronauts or different birth ranges, etc. These are very powerful formulas that can do a lot of stuff, and these are just a more limited version of those formulas. So I would say you sunset those and only use these. Okay, I hope that was helpful. If you have any questions, please feel free to place them in the comments. And also please subscribe, because we have other videos as well that will help improve your Excel skills. Thanks so much for joining.